All right, what is going on, kings and queens? We are talking Mary Cosby. Okay, shout out to TLC because they did a Diddy-like docu-series, you guys, on Mary Cosby, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. If y'all never watched Real Housewives of Salt Lake, y'all really missing out because they're very dramatic. And there's this lady on the show by the name of Mary. So if y'all don't know who she is, she's basically a pastor and she married her step-grandfather, not her blood grandfather, her step-grandfather. Her grandmother remarried to another man by the name of Robert, and then they got together. So Hulu decided to get together and put together like a cult-like docu-series exposing her and her church. So they're alleging that her church is a cult just due to some of the stuff that are being alleged by some of the congregation. Y'all, they had her family up there. This how you know a docu-series is legit if the family is up there. Her sister was up there. Her cousin, congregation members, step family, okay, sister-in-law. They had family on there, really talking just about everything that is not of right of Mary. And I'm kind of disappointed because of course I knew some of the things that were being alleged were sort of true, but some of the details revealed in this docuseries are sort of sad to me. One of them specifically being something that I watched on the show that I laughed about because I thought we'll get to that in a little bit because I'm like, it made me so sad. It just made me really, really sad. So first, shout out to TLC and Hulu. They had YouTubers on there. We had Up and Adam on there. We had Sherelle's World. I love to do a me and Sherelle's World impersonation. Perry, wait, Perry. They had Sherelle World up there. So they had a lot of people that were really commentators and people that cover Real Housewives of Salt Lake City on there giving their opinion on who they think Mary is and some of the allegations just about her. So this series was a three-parter. So it started off with them highlighting basically how Salt Lake City sort of started off. So her getting on the show and everything like that. Now the baby photo that they used to marry was so diabolical. Take a look. I'm sorry. Every time they put that picture up, I said, why they got that picture like that? Why they got that picture like that? Like you make y'all couldn't find no other picture but that one of Mary looking the way that she was. It was pure comedy every time they popped up that picture. All you see was her smiling just like that, and it was hilarious. And I feel like they purposefully did that, but that's another video. Anyway, so the key players in this docu series. So they had a former employee on there, her cousin, her sister, family in laws in there as well, and then estranged church members, congregation members, right? Now, the sister's name is Denise, and they are estranged. And by the way, she had a lot to say. That sister did not hold back for nothing. I'm going to tell you that straight up. The sister did not care. She did not care about anything and didn't cut corners on anything of Mary at all. So that lady wants Mary's head, if we're really going to be honest. Like, I feel like if her and Mary were to be in the same room, she would whoop Mary's ass. Like I'm talking about tear her through. So it started off about the show and just about how she ended up getting on the show. It gave a little bit of backstory about who Mary is, but the later parts of the docuseries is when we started to learn about what Mary was like younger. So they introduced the Enoch family. So the Enoch's family is really the originator of Mary's church at the moment. So their grandmother, which by the way, both of the Enoch's family members were there. Michael and Raslin were there as well. So their grandmother ended up meeting Mary's grandmother, who they call on the docuseries and they call in real life. She's no longer alive, of course. She's called Mama. This is not Mary's mom. This is Mary's grandmother. So this is the grandmother that she took the husband from. Step husband, really. Step grandfather, not Mary's dad. She didn't marry her grandfather. My bad. She married her step grandfather. Keep that in mind because when people tell the story, people get confused. Either way, it's nasty as hell because you're literally sleeping with somebody that your family member had sloppy seconds, which I don't care how much money on the line. I just can't see myself doing that. It's just nasty. Like, I don't know. It's disgusting. Okay. So the Enoch family were there, Rosalind and Michael, which by the way, they also had a lot to say too throughout the docuseries. And really, the person I felt the most sympathy for is Michael, just due to the story that he tells later on. So first, they start talking about the makings of the church, right? How the church's current day before, Mary got on the show. So they start talking about offerings, right? Which somebody who grew up in the church, I'm talking about like I grew up in the church. I kind of wish social media was prevalent back then because my family would think to record me in a church. Because I used to be in the children's choir, the Christmas cantata, all of that when I was little. Okay. I even remember one of the solos I had. Yes, we had a children's choir where we would perform on holidays. We perform on Easter, Christmas, and Christmas we always did a play. So that's how I kind of got into acting, y'all. And me wanting to be an actor is because of the church, like literally. So they would give us lines to memorize. Like it was no joke. We would get scripts. I remember my Sunday school teacher, her name was Miss Margaret. She give us scripts and she's like, hey, this you're gonna be playing this part, you need to memorize it. That's how I'm good with memorization. So when I be doing like readings and stuff, I memorize stuff very quickly because of that. So it doesn't take me long to memorize, thanks to the church. Yeah. So I wish we had footage of it though, because I'll show you some of it. Because my little gay ass was okay. So me growing up in the church, this docu-series to me was interesting because they expose a church that they're trying to say allegedly is a cult. So they talk about in the docu-series an emergency tithe offering. So for y'all that don't grow up in the church, a tithe is basically, where they pass the plate around and then they take money from the members or people in the church. And it's of course, an offering to God and the church as well to help with, you know, security in your faith and also helpings with the church. Certain churches do take advantage and they use the tithes for things that they're not supposed to, but that they shouldn't be using it for, to really to really fund their lavish lifestyle and not really to put it into making the church better for what it is. So they talked about in this docuseries of how they basically would have these emergency church tithes offering where they would be like, oh, we have an emergency. We need $100,000. Oh, we have an emergency. We need 50K. This is what they said in the docu-series, which me growing up in church, I don't even remember us having emergency tie offers, except for one time, what it was because of the church roof, which there was a lying. That church roof was coming to loose. A part of the church off to the side where the office was, the roof was scaling off. So it wasn't even a lie. You could literally go outside and see that the roof was not together. So like that's the one time I remember them having an emergency church offering. Besides that, it would just be regular all around. It would never be something to where people are doing emergency offerings for just any random thing. So that in itself was questionable. Michael and Rosalind basically said that these offerings, they would sort of push them to give these offerings in great amounts, and they would shame them when they would not have enough to give. Which my whole thing is this: I grew up in the church. From what I know is God loves a cheerful giver. So if I'm not cheerfully giving, I shouldn't be giving. If I don't have it, I'm not gonna give it. The shade. So why the heck she thought, if this is true, allegedly, that this is okay is so wrong, because it's already hard enough for some people to go to church on a consistent basis, but to take advantage of them allegedly is on a whole nother level. Now, they even played a part on the show where they had they had an audio tape that leaked of Mary shaming her congregation members for not donating enough. Okay. So, by the way, y'all remember watching the show and one of Mary's church members said, "You want the best," when her voice was shaking like that and she was crying. Oh man. Okay, so they talk about how like the voice note leaked, and you can hear the voice note of her shaming her congregation. She's like, "Why the hell did you not have?" Which we've heard before. If y'all watch the show like I do, we've all heard this before. It was talked about at the reunion also. But she was like, "Why the heck y'all not giving me more? Y'all over there all cheap, all stingy selves. Y'all done gave only 4 envelopes, and I don't know how much is in them envelopes, but it didn't sound like it was a lot in them envelopes." So just off of that, a lot of people were turned off by it because they feel like, Mary is being super money hungry, which you're not supposed to do that. If you're a leader of the church, you cannot shame people if they cannot give. At the end of the day, especially in the past 10 years, 20 years really, the economy each year has gotten 100% worse every year that goes by. So the fact that she was allegedly shaming people to give when they didn't have is sick. And God gonna deal with you, Mary, if that is the case. This docuseries just made me look at Mary totally different. I was like, I've heard the rumors, y'all. I've seen the YouTube videos. I follow along. Y'all know me. But it's like a part of me, it's not like I didn't want to believe it, but a part of me thought it was a little bit of jealousy from the congregation members that were trying to put out a narrative to try to ruin her image, even though her image was already tarnished because you married your grandmother's husband. You're nasty. That is the definition of the Raven Simone. You're nasty. Like literally, you're nasty. So it was already in my mind that she was like a little trifling, but like, damn, Mary, you were super trifling. And like Monique said, you were a slutatious whore. Like she said on Charm School. You were the whore of Charm School. You are the whore of the church, a slutatious whore. Because damn, Mary was getting down. I want to be down all day and night with you. I want to be down. Mary was getting down. She was. We'll get to the affair in a little bit. So they talked about that. The part that made me the saddest of the first part was a part of the show that I watched. So there's a scene on Real Housewives of Salt Lake where she's talking to Mary, right? I mean, she's talking to Whitney, and when she's talking to Whitney, she's basically telling Whitney how one of her church members, family members, died. So to me, it sounded like a made up story. I thought she was just trying to be funny uh, to Whitney and say some wild stuff because y'all know Mary be saying stuff that's off the wall. So I'm like, oh, this is probably one of her off the wall comments. Turns out it was actually true. The death was actually true, and the family members, which is Michael and Rosaline. Rosaline, that's her niece. Michael, that's her daughter, who's on the docuseries. So she's literally talking about this in like a funny type way, making it this little spooky Halloween story, and it's a real life story. And they kind of put Bravo should be ashamed of themselves too, because they put like a little comedic twist to it. I remember that scene vividly because the kids were looking at Mary like, "What the hell is wrong with this lady? She's crazy as hell." You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? So the fact that Bravo did air that out and they edited it in the way that they did, they should be a little bit ashamed of themselves because it's a real life person that ended up passing away, and the way that they passed was very tragic. The way that the car accident happened, they were ejected out of the car like that. So to me, that wasn't comedic, and shame on y'all, Bravo, for making it comedic. Because I did laugh, no shade. Because I thought Mary was capped. I thought it was all like lies that she was just saying just to try to like be funny, but it turned out she wasn't. Michael was very disappointed in how it was shown. Um, he felt like she's going to reap what she sows. Rosalie was crying because she felt like, how dare you even like try to make like a mockery of it or try to make a joke out of it when you know it's something that real life happened. And apparently they put up a GoFundMe for her death, and she was telling allegedly people in her congregation to do not donate to her. Don't donate because she said that that money should be for her and that y'all shouldn't be donating. If y'all donate, basically she gonna kick y'all out the church. Mary's a sick hoe for that. Like I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, like that's next level like piece of shit. Like it really is. Okay. So that was mostly part one. And then we get to the alleged affair. So let's talk Cameron. Cameron is the guy. He appeared on Real Housewives of Salt Lake, I believe the season before Mary went off of the show and then came back. He came on there basically saying that he was a member of the church. He exposed things that were going on in the church. He even took out at one point a mortgage on his home in order to help Mary financially. Now they really exposed her alleged affair with Cameron. I gagged. Mary went over there with an old CD disc. Okay, y'all remember the what's the called? A vinyl. She went over there with a vinyl and ride them, okay, and have some a time of her life. So from what the story was told, um, Cameron, who's no longer with us, he unfortunately passed away, R.I.P. He told Mary's cousin about what happened before he passed. He said that Mary went over his house. They started playing music. She like, play some of that old time. Play some of that old time. Okay. They start playing Alicia Keys. Okay. Superwoman. Yes, I am. She like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. So next thing you know, they start getting it in. And then, apparently his hands went under, it didn't one of those. I said, oh, Mary, you're an nasty one. Okay. So they started messing around. They said they went on trips and everything like that. And then all of a sudden he stopped going to the church. So what I'm guessing happened is probably Robert found out and he was not too happy about it, of course, because that's his wife. Who would want your wife sleeping with a man, without your permission, and especially if you're her husband and y'all not in an open relationship. So when it happened, I'm guessing Robert found out. They didn't go into details to specifically why it broke down. It was either Robert finding out, or I think financially he was not able to keep donating to her anymore, and it ended from there. Okay, he went on the show, exposed Mary, and then he unfortunately passed away. I always find when deaths happen after somebody exposes something very weird, I always contributed to like energy. If y'all know what I know, y'all know what I know. Allegedly. No shade. I'm just saying. But it's good that he at least got his truth out there before he ended up passing. And then we go to part two. So part two is where they really start breaking down the history of Mama. The second part of the series really displayed like who Mama was. Basically, when she came to Salt Lake, there wasn't a lot of black people. I love that the fact they talked about that because people don't understand all of this is happening in Salt Lake. Salt Lake is not a predominantly black community. So she opened up a lot of small businesses. Mama did, which is Mary's grandmother, that pertain to black people. So it was like black hair salons, black restaurants, and it was a lot of businesses that were able to benefit off of like the black culture and black people using those black businesses because there wasn't a lot in that community. So I'm glad that they opened up the doors to kind of introduce that and to talk about that. Now they also talked a little bit about Mary growing up. So this is where we got into what Mary was doing. So apparently Mary was a wild child. That's what shocked me. I thought she was like, a nerd, but Mary was getting down. Mary was starting trouble. She said there was one point Rosaline said that she was walking and these girls was trying to jump Mary, and she said, "Oh, I gotta walk with you. They finna jump me." Who would have thought Mary would be the one that is like a girl that be stirring? Like, don't get me wrong, on the show she be starting stuff, but it's like she's not a messy person. At least from the show, she gets into the mess, but she don't just like start mess with people. Like, I mean, she kind of do. Let me shut up. Yes, she do. Let me stop lying. But no, it was shocking because I didn't think she was like that as a child. How about that? So they talked about that, and at one point she got so wild to the point where she would stay out all days of the night. Apparently she ended up taking her sister's car. She took her sister's car for days and then returned it. And the sister was hot. The sister like, oh my God, like, why you took my car and you didn't return it? It's one thing to take it overnight, but babe, you took it for a whole day. You know what I'm saying? And then you thought I was gonna be mad about it. So the sister talked about that, and that ended up getting her dispelled from the church. What that means is you're basically kind of excommunicated from the church and participating in it until you could get right with God. After that happened, uh her mother was very angry with her. Her mother and her started to get on very bad terms because of how Mary was acting. Then Mama ended up passing away, sadly. So Mama ended up passing away at 65, which then left Robert very like, disappointed in her death because he didn't know what would happen to the church next because it was Mama's church. So of course a lot of people expected Mama's daughter, which is Mary's mother, who's also passed away, to step up and take that place, but nope, it went a whole nother way. Mary started to hang around Robert, from what the docuseries says. They started to hang around a whole lot. He became, she became basically his confidant. Like she would get him to vent about what he misses about Mama and everything like that. Soon they started messing around. So Mary says on the show, and I always side-eyed her when she said this. She's like, "Oh, when she before she passed, she said that you could have one of my girls. What is she, a pimp? One of my girls. Why would she even say something like that? Like that don't even sound like something that a church lady would say. One of my girls, unless you're talking about giving them a bag of chips. You're not talking anything sexual with one of my girls as the church lady. Like what? So I always knew that was cap. That always sounded like cap. It never sounded real to me because it wouldn't make sense for her to be on her dying bed and that would be one of her wishes. Why would me as the grandmother want you to give one of my granddaughters? If you don't get your nasty ass to get another old lady, what the hell? No. So they made it a point to call her out on it about. Now the sister is the key. The sister said that Robert started spoiling her. Robert started getting her gifts, trips, etc. And then he ended up getting her a BMW. And then she was just like, he got her a BMW. But like you got like about 24 grandchildren, and I'm here, bro. Anyway, I said Mary's sister do not like her. It's no shade. She hates that lady. You know what I'm saying? Like she wants a car. Not gonna lie, I want a BMW. So it's like I feel you, girl. Like I'm right here with you. You hear me? I want a BMW too. Just as much as Mary wants that. She wants that BMW. I want a BMW just as much. Okay, so you are not alone. Okay. There was one part of the docuseries they talk about this woman named Pat. Now, this woman named Pat apparently worked for Mary and Robert, and she ended up being severely verbally abused throughout the whole time working for Pat, and then ended up passing away. She said at one point Mary would call her now Rosalind, which was one of the members of the congregation, talked about how Pat would tell her how the abuse was so bad. She said one day she wants to go to sleep and never wake up again. And she ended up dying of natural causes. She was 81, but she was basically working around the home of Mary, cleaning around and all of that. But I guess Mary took it to the next level where she would verbally abuse her. This is what they're claiming allegedly happened. They also talked about these other two members of the congregation that were on the docuseries. It was the sister of a guy, and the sister of the guy basically was saying how he literally would give up all his money to tithes. Like they would force him, they would motivate him and push him to give all his money to tithes, and it got to the point where he wasn't making even enough money, but because of the motivation of them pushing so much, she had to step in and was like, "Hey, like if you keep giving away money, you ain't got no money left. So stop giving away money. Stop giving away money." And he stopped at one point, and then she was basically threatened to be excommunicated because they found out that she was going to him trying to get him to stop giving money to the church. Like it will go to that level. This is why this docuseries, y'all need to check it out if y'all haven't, because it is very detailed and they talk about everything. And there's actually it's like 50 Cent's docuseries. They have people that were in Mary's life that's there in the docuseries. Not no people that heard or just hopped on YouTube. No, like they were there. Now, Mary's cousin to me is who had the most to tell because him and his wife went through a lot because of Mary and Robert. So the story that the wife tells is that basically they tried to separate them. Like he would tell Robert, which is Mary's husband, her grandmother's grandfather. I just got to keep putting that in there because like her grandmother's husband, because like that's just weird. Anyway, he kept going up and asking the wife to like, hey, come over to our house, leave your husband, come over to our house, bring the kids, leave your husband. Try to like annihilate them and separate them, which I don't know why, because the way she kind of put the story, she kept saying that, oh, you're in love with me, you love me. So it's like, was he trying to have sex with you? Was he trying to come on to you? That's what it gave to me. Just watching it, her telling the story, it gave like he wanted to see if you were down to have intercourse with him, and he was trying to test you. That's what I got from it. Let me know what y'all got from that, because that story, the way it was told, was very odd to me. And then another thing, his cousin talked about like the abuse that he kind of suffered under the hands of Robert, and like them having to like and the adopted son, them having to basically go through like kind of like a boot camp, like a church boot camp type thing, which is like I done vacation Bible school. It was the nut like he described. They talking about nails under the knees if they drop, all this sort of like abusive stuff that they went through, which was super, super sad to hear. And they kind of ended off the series, which basically Mary leaving the show after all the accusations came to surface. And then after that, she took a break off, which I remember this vividly. She took a break and then came back as a friend and then came back full time. So then she kind of let people forget about it. She did it very strategically, by the way. So that pretty much was the docu-series. I probably left a couple stuff out, but I really want y'all to check out the docu-series because it was really, really good with chock full of information. Another thing I did not like, the sister was talking about how she has bad knees, and she said the Holy Spirit called her in the church, and she started going crazy or whatever. You know, not going crazy, so excuse that. But like the Holy Spirit called her, and she was in the church, and she ended up in the aisle, and she was having a hard time getting up because she got bad knees, and she said the people in the pulpit were laughing at her. That said all I had. When she said that, I said, "Oh, that's all I need to know." Mary, you got to answer to this. They did ask them to comment, her and Robert, and they refused to comment. So that lets us know that it was a lot of truth in this. Let me know if y'all did check it out. Mary has commented on this during BravoCon and basically called it like ridiculous. She doesn't seem too worried about this. She's probably going to file a lawsuit against TLC and Hulu, but we'll see because it's all, of course, alleged. But let me know what y'all think down below if y'all did check it out. Does this make y'all look at Mary differently? This makes me look at her differently 100% because I like Mary on the show. She's funny. She's a key. She's a character. So to see that she's done all these bad things, I'm going to keep side-eyeing her every time a scene of hers comes on. Sorry.